Kayla Jacobs,
Here.
Jerry LeBeau,
Here.
Jody Holton, Ingrid Holmes,
Here.
Daryl Anderson,
Here.
Melvin Getwood. We have a quorum.
Someone will give us the invocation, please.
Certainly. Would you rise with me? Father God, we come before you this afternoon just giving you all the thanks and gratitude for the things that you've done for us today and throughout our life. We ask that you be with us tonight as we conduct the business of the Port Arthur EDC. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, board, we received minutes for our joint special meeting workshop with the City of Port Arthur, our special meeting, and board retreat, and our regular board meeting all taking place in August. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes from all three of those meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On today, we have two presentations. Our first presentation will come from a representative from Shine On Humanity.
Good afternoon,
Afternoon.
or is it evening? I don't even know. So I'm going to read this so it'll be quick and easy, and then if they'll have questions afterwards. But again, thank you for giving us this opportunity to inform you about Shine on Humanity and the Westside Empowerment Zone. My name is Van Shotwell, and I am the co-founder and COO of the organization. And Jimmy Willers here, he is a co-founder and the CEO. Mark is not here today. He's actually stuck in New York. He went to visit his grandchildren, and he was like, Southwest couldn't get me back, so he's not here. So this presentation, it's basically just information about everything that has been going on so that you have an idea of who we are, where we came from, and what our vision is for Port Arthur. So we're here to ask for help with the revitalization and economic stimulation for the forgotten west side of Port Arthur. So let me first give you a quick rundown of Shine on Humanity and how we have to come to this position at this point in time. Shine on Humanity was created in 2018 and became an official 501c3 in February of 2019. Initially, we started out as a natural disaster relief organization with a mission and vision to help folks who were completely devastated by a natural disaster. Then they were scammed by out-of-town contractors. Then they were left to their own survival mechanisms by insurance companies and even local, state, and federal government institutions. However, in 2020, the pandemic then created a whole new disaster, the man-made disaster, that has been on a whole other level of a long-term survival situation for people all around the world. So now to our current position at Port Arthur, Texas. We are not a new organization to this city. We have been involved with this city for this December will be 4 years. We have been sponsoring the mayor's Christmas meal giveaway, to which we give 300 to 500 10 to 20 pound turkeys or ham, plus cans of green beans or corn and rolls to families to prepare for their Christmas dinner. Now, we have been working to put Shine on Humanity chapter for the Golden Triangle, and we wanted to base it here in Port Arthur. Now, we get to the West Side Empowerment Zone. So on April the 25th of 2023, Resolution 23-176 was passed. And we were told that Shine would now be able to join in on the cause to revitalize the west side of Port Arthur. We stand before you this evening because we keep getting passed around, because either no one truly understands what Shine is here to do, or no one wants to put in the hard work that it will take to revitalize the west side. We have had 4 West Side Empowerment Zone meetings with the community, and they have expressed to us how excited and truly grateful for Shine's intentions to help revitalize the west side. However, they are concerned with any movement with the city because they feel that they have been left behind in the growth of Port Arthur. Now, after our due diligence, we have come to the realization that they are 100% correct in their assessment of the city's plan for the west side. How did we come up with this assessment, you may ask? After Resolution 23-176 was passed, we asked City Council to amend the resolution and add Shine on Humanity as the managing entity for the revitalization program for the west side. We asked for this because as the planning moves forward, there will be entities who come in and try to buy properties from the residents for a cheap amount so that they can build homes that may not fit within the affordable, long-term, generational wealth program that Shine is trying to implement for the residents. These entities with deep pockets will raise the value on properties, to which it will create a potential need for low-income producing families to move out of the west side. This will devastate and demolish any history that is left of the west side. That is why Shine needs to be managing the project, because we are a nonprofit with no political biases or intentions to personally profit from the revitalization of the west side. Now, all funds, minus the 20% administrative fees that we receive for the west side, will be dedicated to the Shine on Humanity Golden Triangle chapter to ensure that it helps families in need in the Golden Triangle area. But any funds given directly from a specific city will help to go to the families who live in that specific city. Now, regarding the amendment to Resolution 23-176, the city attorney informed us that resolutions cannot be amended. So our next step was to get a consulting agreement with the city, to which we know that this happens on a regular basis for all cities. However, again, we were told that the city did not know how to write up a consulting agreement with a nonprofit organization and that we needed to have our attorney work with the city attorney. We brought to the table former Port Arthur city attorney, Mark Sokolow. So Mark has years of experience and in-depth knowledge of how the city of Port Arthur is managed. However, the consulting agreement that he has created and sent to both the City Council and the EDC have gone on deaf ears and blind eyes. Now, let me back up to a very important detail in this situation. After the passing of Resolution 23-176, we asked the city for the feasibility and environmental studies, along with the master plan for the city, and specifically the west side. The information that was provided to us was created in 2015 and did not have anything regarding the west side. Remember when the community told us that the west side had been forgotten and left behind? This is the proof that they were right. This brings us to why we're here today. We asked the city for $900,000 delivered over 3 years so that we can create the non-existent feasibility and environmental studies, a master plan, and a use of the portion of funds for promotional dollars specifically for the west side. We only asked for this because there are no studies. There is no master plan for the west side. So how does one revitalize an area that doesn't exist to the city? The EDC should completely understand where we are coming from when it comes to economic development and economic growth for the city. And our question is, what is the intention of the city and the EDC for the forgotten and left behind west side of Port Arthur? Shine doesn't have to do the studies and the master plan. That is actually the job of the city manager and the EDC. You all should already know should know what you have planned for your city, and we are just here to help you implement those plans. However, since there are no plans, then either y'all need to create the plans or provide us with the funds in order to create the plans, and then we all work together to ensure that the West Side is revitalized, and the economic growth will help to boost taxes in the future. Also, we did not fill out the EDC forms because we are not a manufacturing company. However, with the information provided by the studies and the master plan, we will be able to bring in retail companies that will help to boost the economic growth of the West Side, and it will also benefit downtown Port Arthur. We are asking for your help to make this work for the community of the West Side. Will you step up, reach out your hand, and pull the West Side back into the folds of Port Arthur instead of pushing them to the side as if they are the adopted stepchild? Once Shine is a consultant and promoter, we will bring in our resources and partners to create promotional events such as concerts and festivals, which will help to bring visitors and even bring back former residents who would like to build a home on the West Side. In the meantime, Shine on Humanity is working on the other deliverables, as well as coordinating with the city and EDC staff to meet potential investors, work on port-related facilities and business to locate on the West Side, as well as coordinate more with the port, to which we have already had a meeting with, and they are very supportive of our efforts to revitalize the West Side. The key is reaching out and showing people that Port Arthur is open to business and that it is fun to do business in Port Arthur. Thank you. It's really, again, it's just a very quick assessment of the situation the past 4 years now that we have tried to get in here and really work with the residents and the community of Port Arthur. Yes, we did start out with just doing the food drive and giving away to the residents, but we saw the potential here, and then we wanted to be a part of it. We want to help, and the residents want us to help. So with the 4 meetings that we've had, they keep asking us, what is going on? What is the movement? And we don't have an answer because it's like, do this, and then go over here, and then wait for this person, and you can't do it without this. And so we don't know what the left hand or the right hand is doing, and we don't know how to move forward except to do what our organization needs to do. And we will complete what our task is. But if the city and the EDC, we need your help. The community needs your help. And we've been driving around looking at different properties and talking to the citizens, and they're very, very excited. They want to do cleanups. They're talking about that, putting groups together to do community cleanups, and they want to get involved. So we would like to see that everyone is happy and supportive with the city and the EDC to help us move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Board. We have an agenda item, which is number 1, with Shine on Humanity. So we can do the question and answer period now while she's standing there, or we can do it when we get to that agenda item. It's a pleasure of the Board. You want to hold the question to them? Okay, we'll hold the question until we get to your agenda. Thank you so much for your presentation. Our next presentation will come from Mr. Larry Kelly, Port Director and CEO of the Port of Port Arthur.
Thank you, sir. Are these your glasses? I have the same problem. Thank you very much, Mr. President. On behalf of the Port of Port Arthur, certainly appreciate your time. I will keep my comments as brief as possible. As a person as Mr. Stokes knows, we try to keep our meetings on time and running, and I certainly appreciate that. I do have with us today, I'd like to recognize our board president, Mr. John Como, and our vice president, Randy Martin, and a special guest also. Thank you very much. And on behalf of our other remaining commissioners, Raymond Johnson, Mary Wyckoff, and Linda Turner Spears, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you their combined board experience of something close to 70 years is present in guiding our board. I've served the port for 15 years. I like to say I live, work, and pay taxes here in Port Arthur. The purpose of us coming here today is to seek approval and recommendation for a subject area property. Action by this board will allow estimated $22 million investment in the west side to move forward. So that's the start and the finish. I can sit down now, but I think I'll go on a little bit more if you don't mind. Who are we? And I'll start this way. I'd like to extend an open invitation to the members of the staff, and certainly Crystal and Mr. Stokes have been on a tour of the port more than once as we've worked on different economic development deals. I'd like to extend that offer to you all for, we'll coordinate through Mr. Stokes a tour of the facility. We kind of explain what we're doing. Time doesn't certainly allow to go into great detail of that, but more than happy to. Who we are and what we do. Our missions aren't dissimilar. It's about jobs and economic development at our port. We do it by, with, and through maritime commerce, and that constitutes, in maritime you generally just think, well, that's just ships. No, we're a rail port that happens to have ships alongside, and we also have surface transportation connectivity, and including also pipeline connectivity. And if you were around our port over the past few days, you probably saw a number of helicopters flying out of the port. We're very proud of the role that we play with the U.S. military. And what I've provided to you in the packets that Mr. Stokes kindly handed out is just a rough representation of some of the port duties and our cargoes and commodities for those of you that don't know what we handle. I've already mentioned military. We handle pipe and steel. We export renewable wood products. We import a lot of wood products from Central South America and Europe, and we've estimated that last year we built something, in theory, 15,000 homes in Texas for the wood forest products that we handle through there. Those of you that have been on the tour that know that our market niche is imported eucalyptus pulp, and if you know and enjoy things like Viva, Charmin, Bounty, or Cottonelle, those are the products we handle through our facility, and they go on to an end producer. We became kind of noted during COVID. I'm just here to tell you folks, we were never out of product. It was, things happened on the store shelves during then. Aside from that, it's about the employment, and I did a back of the envelope estimate. So the port's payroll represents about 10% of this number, but $20 to $25 million annual payroll comes through that port. And that's through the International Longshoremen Association, which represents almost half. And then our tenant stories are fantastic. We have tenants that have 50 to 75 to 150 employees in the port, and then our contracted relations. So the payroll port is an important component of it that I would just want to make you aware of. Community outreach I've included in there in our slides. Actually, two things. Sharita Gardner, our public affairs and communications manager, aided me in putting together a few things that we've been working on over recent years. Very proud of that program. Two components, our Camp Seaport, our youth outreach program, is in its 16th year. Trained many students come through. We're seeing the results. We even have one fine student that is now an employee of our port, and some have gone on for educational or occupational opportunities that we think that participating in our local community outreach camp has aided them. The other part, and this is near and dear to my heart, is our local minority-owned, women-owned, veteran and disabled veteran-owned business program. I've attached, for your reference, my card is in there. I've got my cell number on it, but also there's a small QR code. And if you know of a local business that fits those categories, or just a local business, please let us know. And that's one way that they can provide that contact to us. We've estimated that 39% of the checks we write go to a business that is located in our political subdivision, and about half of them go to Jefferson County. Other things that we're actively involved in, and Mr. Stokes and I had an opportunity over a short car ride to visit a little bit, but about issue advocacy, and it's in Austin, DC, and at the local level. Most of them are focused on transportation and community development practices. I know it's all near and dear to our heart about the congestion on 82, 87. I'll tell you, we've been active and vocal on that going back to 2017. We had proposed to TxDOT to reduce some right-hand, left-hand turning conflicts on a number of intersections, including 82 and 87. And is right on the onset of COVID, in November of 2019 at the Seafair Center, we hosted a work session bringing all the project partners together. And since then, we've participated in or hosted several workshops on that very important issue to us. So that was one of the things I know, Mr. Stokes, that we talked about, that it's obviously very important to us. The port is growing. Your port is growing. Our port is growing. Evidenced by a roughly $200+ million capital expansion plan. Right now, if we were to go down the dock, or if you venture over to Pleasure Island and perhaps someone else is driving, you can look out the window and see our dock construction of berth 6. That will be completed in about a year. That's about a $67 million project, adding 1,000 linear feet of dock. The average ship size today ranges between 650, 750 feet, with the larger military vessels on the order of about 1,000 feet. The one we just handled last week was 913 feet long. Part of this, why are we doing this? It's about jobs and economic development. Our community, as we all know, last month, or the most recent available unemployment numbers put us at 10% unemployment. We think by, with, and through our local employment opportunities that we create by handling maritime cargoes, that we can help offset some of the challenges that we face in our community. Folks, that port's been there for 50 years. We're not going to pick up and move. You know where to find me. You know where to find our commissioners. We're all part of this community and heavily invested. And the project that I'm bringing forward today and how we got there, it started with an idea about 5 years ago or so. And it's advanced as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is working on a realignment of our flood protection system around our community. And if I can bore you ad nauseum on that flood protection system, but suffice it to say, it will, once it's constructed, could put the port in a position where we get locked out of our own port during a period of time when the gate structures are closed. Raise that issue for us. Presently today, 2 to 4 times a day, we're blocked out of our own port when we're switching, bringing rail cars in or out of the port. And it creates a transportation delay and a backup for the cargo that we handle. And how it became out of that was through TxDOT initially. They asked for kind of unconstrained requests on projects. What are your project ideas? A number of them we've been able to satisfy through other grant programs, and RAISE 22 was a real big one. We had submitted it in the spring of 22. We received it in the fall of 22, and we're still waiting to work through some of the government process through what's referred to as NEPA, National Environmental Permit Review. That's a big one that will aid us significantly. One of the things that you will see beyond the cargo staging areas is at 501 Houston Avenue. That building, if you're familiar with the Seafair Center, to the right of it is a large 2-story white structure. That project, that grant will allow us $3.4 million to rehabilitate a building on our west side of downtown and on the west side of Houston Avenue as well. So we certainly look forward to that one. The other one, and that's what leads us here, is with all the stories about how the port is impacted by future construction. It's also by the growth, allowing the port to grow and redevelop some properties, hatched the idea for the West Side Flyover. We'd had it in TxDOT for some time with no funding source. Earlier this year, we submitted it under the US DOT RAISE grant process. I will tell you, we didn't have a high expectation of getting it. We'd already had a bite at the apple in the preceding year, receiving a grant, but we went through the work on it, and it's an incredible thought experiment. As we geared up for this year's, the 88th session of the Texas Legislature, the ports collectively, Texas Ports Association, banded together, and we do this as a community. And our neighbors with Orange, Sabine Pass, and Beaumont, we were all on the same page, as well as our other port partners along the Gulf Coast. And in this legislative session, the legislature authorized $200 million for infrastructure funding for Texas ports. It's the first time in Texas history this has ever happened. And I'm very pleased to say that Port Arthur is one of the 12 ports that will be receiving funds under this program. So that's how we got to that point today. In the next few weeks, it'll go through the TxDOT Commission. Happy to address any questions or anything you'd like about it. I'd like for you to know how we got here today. And with that, I'll pause at this point and see if there's any questions. If not, I'll return to my seat.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Again, that comes up as item number 3 on our agenda. We will now move to our CEO report. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, directors. You have my written report as a part of your packet. It's going to touch upon a few of the highlighted items. In terms of reviewing the past month, we started off with a bang by having the board retreat, which was speak for myself, a very enjoyable day, longer than any of us expected, but very fruitful, very beneficial. One of the things that I wanted to note by way of follow-through and follow-up, there was a request made of me to reach out to the City Council, letting them know of the desire of the board to begin meeting jointly on a quarterly basis. Had those initial reach out and will continue until we get dates mutually acceptable by both entities on the schedule, but certainly shooting for the first one to take place in October to kick off the fiscal year. More will come as we nail down some dates. On the 7th of the month, at your regular meeting, you approved the budget for fiscal year 23-24. I want to thank you again for that. Just a reminder, very fiscally conservative, risk-avergent budget for this next year to kind of hedge our bets against a national recession. Budget was based upon the 10 strategic priorities that were approved back in March. So look forward to commencing with the execution of that budget come the beginning of next month. A lot of activity this month with my colleague, the director of Pleasure Island, as things start to take shape there in terms of development. Had a preliminary meeting back at the early part of the month just to get prepared for hosting the developer who is looking at perhaps building a water park and entertainment center there. And that site visit ended the month, and I'll get to that in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes. In the middle of the month, had a little bit of a hiccup in that we went down a staffer unexpectedly in terms of timing. And so the latter part of the month was spent reacting to that, juggling things around, seeing what holes needed to be filled, plugging those holes as best we can, as this related to our workforce programs. So a great deal of communication has had to go on in terms of reacting to that, and will continue to go on. And I'll get a little bit more of that when I get to the staffing update. At the end of the month, as I mentioned, specifically on the 30th, Ms. Muller and I joined our colleagues with the city manager, 2 assistant city managers, and the director of Pleasure Island in hosting Circup Investments, which is the firm that is contemplating putting a development on Pleasure Island that was centered around a major water theme park, as well as hotel and restaurants. Just in the early stages of that process, but I had a very productive meeting, felt. lasted just shy of half of a day. And it's a precursor for another meeting that will take place towards the end of this present month. So there'll be more to come on that subject as communication continues to go on. In terms of staffing, like I say, we had an unexpected loss of personnel that now we're in fill-in mode until we can get positions posted and start interviewing candidates, which will take over the month of September and probably into October. In the meantime, and I brought this to the attention of the Finance Committee recently in one of their meetings, had to make the difficult decision to put a temporary halt on our workforce programs, specifically CDL and CNA. Those folks that were already in the pipeline and had already been approved are being taken through, and that's the folks that will be going through the month of September on both of those programs. And then we will, like I say, put a temporary pause on things, working with Dr. Renard and Dr. Stafford to lessen the impact of this temporary halt to the greatest extent possible, and certainly hope to get things back on track as quickly as possible, as soon as we can backfill for the staffers that we've lost. And they've been quite understanding. None of us wanted to be at this particular point, but there's only so much you can do in terms of time and people. So like I say, we're working together to lessen the impact upon the students and upon the overall program. And then lastly, in terms of an update on the development of the overall strategic plan, although work is continuing on that, as you can imagine, it got slowed in August as attentions had to be turned towards other things, most notably taking a look at what we needed to do with the workforce programs. And so work will continue on that, and that'll be done as soon as humanly possible. But like I say, other things had to take priority to keep things on track. And then lastly, directors, in the package you have some list of upcoming events. I won't go through those individually. Certainly welcome to look at those at your leisure. Some of your colleagues, some of directors have signed up for the EDC conference, which will be held in Dallas. As a matter of fact, next week. Others have signed up to attend the TEDC annual conference, which will be in Houston in October. Just a reminder, attendance and registration was budgeted, and so the funding is there if you think that you'd be interested in attending. And then the other things are just, I bring those to your attention. If you have any questions about the other events, just let me know. And with that, Mr. President, that completes my report.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to the CDL program, do we have funds available now for anyone else to enroll?
Funding, yes, no one to monitor the program. So what we've done is taken the folks that are in there for September, and they will complete in October. And that'll basically buy us some time to see if we can get someone on board that can monitor the program. So for a little bit of time, funding is not being tapped into.
Okay, so, but we do have the funds.
Yes, sir.
Now. Okay. Any other questions for CEO?
I was wondering, how long do you anticipate having a halt on those two programs?
I'm going to try and get them back going as quickly as possible. It's a function of getting someone in place, and that's a function of working with HR to get things posted, get interviews as fast as humanly possible. I would like to have things back up and going by November at the latest.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
No further questions? Thank you for your report. Okay, so we have, we're going to move to our consent agenda items. To review, discuss the possible action regarding a proposed increase in fee structure for general counsel legal services provided by Denton, Navarro, Rochelle, Bernard, and Zek. Did I say that right? I was close, huh? I'm good. PC. I need a motion, please.
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve our consent agenda item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, agenda item number 1. Review, discuss, and possible action regarding entering into a promotional agreement with Shine on Humanity for promotional services associated with their West Side Revitalization Project. Mr. Stokes, I'm sorry. Let me have a motion, please.
So moved.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Directors, anytime I particularly hear West Side, it piques my ears because it's near and dear to my heart. And certainly this specific project certainly has a great deal of intrigue and excitement associated with it. As I mentioned in my report, you approved the fiscal year 23-24 budget last month, an extremely conservative budget that was based on a set of priorities that we had set back in March. I can't speak to the legal aspirations of this particular proposed agreement. I'll let Attorney Zek speak to that. But in terms of the fiscal aspects, it simply does not fit within the budget that you have approved. And in order to make it fit, you'd have to take away from one or more of the priorities that you've already set. And that is not something that I could recommend to you. So again, exciting, intriguing, but I just do not see how we can make it fit in terms of our overall strategy.
Questions?
Outside of the budget that we've approved and it not having the budgetary constraints that we have, it would not be an allowable cost. I would like to know from the attorney the legality of it, period.
State law does authorize Type A corporation to utilize up to 10% of its revenues for promotional expenses. I did inquire as to whether or not this fit within that 10%. Yeah, so it sounds like it's over. Having said that, the document that was provided to me, I did take a look at it. I would not recommend that this board sign that document as drafted. It doesn't have nearly enough protections from a legal standpoint for the board. There is no auditing authority with respect to establish what exactly, how the dollars are actually spent. And so in the current form, I would not recommend it, signing that agreement.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. Attorney Zek, in short, what is a promotional agreement or the promotional expenses that are allowed under our EDC type?
So there's not any real clear guidance in any cases, or there's some attorney general opinions out there, and those attorney general opinions basically talk about promotion of the community as a general matter. EDCs will often enter into promotional agreements with chambers of commerce, where the Chamber of Commerce sends out flyers and tries to generate promotion for people to come into the city and to promote economic development within the community outside and inside. But it's pretty lenient with respect to what promotion means. If we're promoting the community, then it's probably an allowable expense.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Again, I'll ask again. All in favor?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, ask
What
the
are
question.
we voting in favor of specifically?
The motion itself,
The motion itself to.
as read.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask again? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion fails. Agenda item number 2. To review, discuss the possible action regarding an amendment to the workforce training agreement with Lamar State College Port Arthur for the CDL program. Mr. Stokes, I'm sorry. Give me a motion, please.
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Now, Mr. Stokes.
Start building in a satellite delay to accommodate your.
I'm just used to doing it the other way.
That's okay. Directors, this is in kind of a tie-in to the question that President Anderson asked a few minutes ago. As pointed out in your background information on this particular item, we started in terms of the intake of students into the program a little bit late this year in terms of working with the college and making sure that they had everything in sync. So normally would have started around January, February. We actually started around March and April. Coupled with that slight delay was also the incredible need that industry had. Certainly as you go around about, you see all of the heavy trucks that we have, and there's just an incredible backlog, as I mentioned to you, both in July and August. So to that end, we accelerated taking folks into the program, okay, to fill that backlog. And so in doing so, I also obviously accelerated the expenditure of funds. So overall, we're budgetary correct, but to make sure everything's kosher, I'm asking you to approve the amending of that contract so that it matches the number in the final paperwork that we actually expended, because like I say, we accelerated the program to take in the same amount of students, but faster.
So the only difference is time, not money.
That's correct. We're just amending the contract to reflect.
Any other questions?
The document indicates that there's a $25,000 budgetary
Yes,
impact.
ma'am. And it's one of those things where I wasn't quite sure how to word that. It's not a shortfall. It is that had we stayed on the same schedule, then that the amount of students going in would have been less, and we wouldn't have needed that 25. It just would have been spent in October, November, so forth and so on. By pulling it in faster, I actually basically changed the contract because we took in folks quicker than we originally planned. Again, to get them out and certified and into industry sooner than they otherwise could have. We're just trying to keep up with our industry strategic partners. So that's it. In other words, the workforce manager and myself should have and could have put a halt to things and just said, you know what, let's just not take anybody else. But because we got started late, I did not feel compelled to penalize folks. Now, if that had been another zero on that number, then yeah, I'm going to come and tell you we're going to stop altogether. But given, I'm not poo-pooing the 25,000, but given the relatively small money compared to our overall budget, allowing us to get those students in and out of the program sooner, I just felt was a better overall outcome.
So it is of benefit that we have this amount of time.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
That was my question. It's a benefit that we have the time, and it's also beneficial to students.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes. Could I make a request that we be able to see, I understand the timing difference, but see that outlay, right, of what the expenditure would have been over time, and then where that $25,000 budgetary impact sits within that outlay?
Absolutely. Basically, we would have, just in a short, and I will give you the actual black and white. We would have just simply stuck with the original contract and brought things to a close around July. But I also would have penalized a bunch of folks because we had got a late start on intaking them, having nothing to do with their fault. So, but yes, I will get that to you and the board.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3, review, discuss, and possible action regarding entering into a purchase agreement associated with the Port of Port Arthur's request to purchase PA EDC owned property. May I have a motion, please?
Move.
Have a second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and second. Any questions for Mr. Stokes? Mr. Stokes, do you have anything to add to that?
No, sir. And depending on the nature of any questions I receive, I may ask you to take us into closed session. But at a high level and in general, it is my recommendation to you that we proceed with the purchase subject to legal review and approval. But let me just back up just a second. As my colleague, Mr. Kelly, said, and I join him in having this difficulty, we both have a situation where we're doing a whole lot, but not a whole lot of people know what our respective entities do. And that's on me and it's on him. And we both know that we have to do a little bit more tooting of the horn. As it relates to this specific project, what I have mentioned to him to take into consideration and ask the commissioners to take into consideration, I'm not sure it wouldn't be a bad idea to do some community outreach specific to this particular project and specific to the West Side community. I'd like to personally suggest a couple of town halls. Mr. Kelly isn't being caught off guard. We had a very long conversation about this the other day. I'm just, and this is the relatively new guy saying this, I'm not so sure the citizens really understand what the port does, what's in it for them, so to speak, what's the benefit, and then as it relates to this specific project, why a flyover? What's it going to do? Is it going to encroach? Is it going to take more land? Is anything going to be done about 87 and the one way in and one way out as it being passed? Those are questions that I believe and the citizens need an opportunity to speak directly to them. So my caveat is that it be approved, but on the condition that there is outreach. And the good news for Mr. Kelly is I'll be right there beside him because I need to do some outreach too.
My question is, you want to approve an item and then come back for outreach?
No, as a part of, as a condition of.
Would we delay potential approval or denial of this item until said town halls could be scheduled?
Just a question, is there an urgency attached to this purchase? I know you mentioned funding. Is it appropriate for me to ask Mr. Kelly a question? Okay.
First, one thing I failed to mention is thank y'all for your service. I know it's a top paying gig here and we're digging into Wheel of Fortune time and all that. It is. We're looking to pursue a design bid build option or design build option right now. We're evaluating that to try to accelerate the project and the project benefits. The Texas legislature promulgated these funds. We already have in-house, and council is probably very familiar with some of these agreements, the advanced funding agreement with TxDOT. The port actually it puts the money out, and then we get our pro rata grant part back upon completion of that segment or that part of it. For us, this is one of many things that we've got to cross to get here, but it's on the very front end of it. And so kindly ask for it. To your point, and thank you, Mr. Stokes, about the community outreach. Some of this we have socialized the project, certainly through the public component. Thank you for your comments about our community. This is how I envision it, and I would say this could happen in a matter of just a few weeks, and I think you know where we live. We'll certainly be good for it. But the thought is to utilize a facility of common use like the West Side Community Center. And our thought process is over a day or days, having a community engagement opportunity at let's say 3 of them, one during a morning period, one during an afternoon period, and one in the evening period, to allow those that either have jobs or childcare responsibilities or whatever to be able to participate. And that's my commitment to you. The other commitment is about the tracks that we're certainly talking about have issues. One of the things Mr. Stokes and I talked about is blight reduction in our community to promote economic development. You say go and we'll start taking it over today. I don't know how it works out with the city or who maintains what, but we'll pick that up today. But hopefully I addressed your community outreach component. There's several other methods. Our website, we can certainly place it up there, but I think we can reach out to our local community in a very short time period.
Now, with the West Side Flyover Bridge, the question is simple. Will there be any displacement of residents?
Initially on the layout, no. And I'll tell you, and I'm going to speak in broad general terms, in other areas we have reached agreements with individuals. Some come to us. One came in today and was looking to dispose of an empty tract of land. Your question's about a home. And but we've also, in the past 3 or 4 years, the port has acquired some residences. If it is a factor, and again, I want to generalize here, I'm not certain that it is a factor today. However, it is in an area of interest, and I can certainly go into some of the methods that the port pursues as to acquiring real property, either land or resident occupied.
I think that this is an item that those persons who live on the west side, especially the deep west side, might be interested in knowing of now?
Yes, sir. But the subject tracks, the answer is there's not.
Thank you.
You are saying long-term, there is a possibility.
Yes, ma'am. There's an area of interest, and if you can envision in this area of interest, and it's quite simple, just look where the rail track is. And our bread and butter and our lifeblood, we think, is water. It is. The other part is rail, and that's part how the port functions. Our interests would be on either side of that rail for potential development, as an example of a warehouse, a rail-served warehouse. And I will tell you, and Mr. Stokes, and I'm sure Mr. Zach and a few others know, railroads are really tough players in the real estate field. There is adequate land in this area, and we're having those conversations. But really, we think by consolidation, hopefully it's in areas that are subject to redevelopment, that are proximate to the rail area, that we would have of interest. So down west side, probably not. If that kind of answers your question, yeah.
Yes, it does. And I guess, I'm all for economic growth, economic development, but I also have to be mindful of the fact that if we are ever going to revitalize the west side of Port Arthur, we need land for homes. And we have 2 schools located on the west side of Port Arthur that could be adversely impacted by the growth. Would you agree?
Or if you bring new homes in there, you could have more children to attend neighborhood schools, I guess.
I understand that. And if we're talking about affordable homes, but if we're talking about land and using land and the potential use of additional land, it may not be a place to bring homes into.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay.
And it's certainly a quality of life issue. Growing up personally, very close to a railroad track, I don't know if I'd want to go through that again, but.
So if we were to move forward, there would definitely be an amendment to the motion, right? With adding in the 3 community meetings attached to the purchase of the land. My question is, can I get a motion to support that amending of that first one to add in the 3 community meetings that will be held at the West Side Development Center in conjunction with the purchase of the property that we're discussing right now?
Make a motion.
I have a question. Are you wanting to make that a condition preceding to the sale of the property, or I didn't think that you were, but just that good faith that will occur?
Right.
Okay.
As a good faith, do we need to add that to the motion if it's of good faith? I mean, if we're going to sell it either way.
I think it needs to be documented.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Support
nice
of
to have
it.
it in the motion, as long as it's clear.
I have one motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
One motion on the floor, right?
Yes. I need yeah, the amendment. He moved. I need a second.
To be clear, the amendment, kind of repeating what Attorney Zek just said, but the amendment is to say that, yes, we agree we will sell, but there's a good faith kind of a amendment on
And
that
that they
motion.
would do the community meeting so that the community would have an opportunity to know exactly what's going on with the land that's being purchased.
I'm okay with it for.
I have a personal hangup, if you will, and because I think of the implication of saying we want community feedback. What are the ramifications if the meeting does not go, I guess, as smoothly as one would hope, right? If larger issues are brought to light that could result in, I don't know, potential delays to the timeline that's preferred currently. I think that's kind of my hangup. I personally would want to know more of what the agenda would entail, and also the timeline of which, these meetings, the timeline and means of which these meetings will be communicated to members of the community. I think that would give me a bit more comfort in saying, yes, let's move forward. But that's where I am.
I'd like to make a recommendation, if you would, amend your motion to say that there is a timeline associated with when they would do that. I mean, that it has to be before the development begins. Would you agree with that?
Right.
And directors, I would just add for informational purposes only. You have a large printout of the parcels. And Mr. Kelly, please correct me if I'm misstating this, but I do believe that an agreement is in place with the city of Port Arthur for the properties in blue. So just be aware of that.
Folks, thank you, and you are correct. There's a purchase agreement in place with the city of Port Arthur for tracts adjacent and contiguous to some of the properties owned by the Port Arthur Economic Development Corporation.
Withstanding the public outreach, which still would take place. Just wanted you to be aware of that in terms of the city's stance, for lack of a better word.
We still would like for our motion to say that what it says already, of course, with the purchase of the land, but with the 3 community development meetings to happen within a certain time frame, and that time frame being more sooner than later. I mean, I don't know if a date can be put on that or not, but
I guess what I'm saying, before the property is developed by the port. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, ma'am, and I think it's a fair question. We're talking in terms of weeks or months. The thing that's probably going to be our longest lead time is make sure we can book it, which I think that's fairly reasonable, is printing a series. And just let's walk through that just very quickly. What our plan is much a little bit like what we did today is, hi, we're with the port and in our community. And I'll tell you, I find in our community, it happens a lot that I didn't know there was a port in Port Arthur. But I'll tell you also, I've got friends that work at the Port of Houston that say that they get that too, that they're not aware that there's a port in Houston. So it's an industry challenge that we all have. It will take us longer to get the media printed up, either handouts or easel panels printed. And what it'll probably go in the context of it, it'll be a little bit like who we are, where we are, what we do. And then we'll go into the project and set up series of stations. I might even be able to ask our friends at TxDOT to come and join, and it'll be from 2 divisions, either our district office, the engineer's office. They've got a really good guy there, the district engineer, and most of you are familiar with Sarah Dupree. Ask them to join us, and maybe even having somebody from the TxDOT Maritime Division present too for either some or all the listening sessions. Just kind of depends on how we stack that up. They office over in Austin, but no, more than happy to do this. And we may even invite our stevedore or something like that too. So there's also a jobs component when we prepare to do that. I'll give you my commitment. We can do it in a month. There, I said it. Now I just got to get the content prepared to be able to do that. So that's my commitment to you.
As Mr. Kelly has found out recently, I'm really good at spending the port's money. So one of the things that I've requested is animation of the flyover. We're halfway there.
I might do shadow
Yes.
puppets or something.
We're close. But I think that will help the citizens visualize a little bit easier if there's 3D.
I still have a
Yes, I have one more statement. Mr. Kelly, just my second concern with this would be understood, and thank you for being able to commit to a month. An issue that I am very aware of in Port Arthur is, and I'm sure of the port's ability to get this done, but just to put this out there, the lead time with which the community is made aware of meetings that share information that could potentially have a lot of impact on their lives. Sometimes there's not adequate lead time to where, even though, and that's a great proposal to say an AM and early PM and a later PM meeting, but we also want to make sure that people are given enough time to mark their date on their calendars to where they can attend and where an appropriate media or outreach campaign can take place to make sure that everyone who could potentially be impacted of this is aware of the meeting and have enough time to make plans to attend said meeting.
And that's a fair statement, and I understand. So maybe a little longer than a month, but I will say project design and completion, this is the start of a journey. And for us, while it's probably about a 14-month period of construction, it's almost equally as long as the design. The other challenges lay ahead. We have our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The railroad, by the way, we cross over their property. So we're crossing over a levee and over a railroad track to get there. So the lead time on the design will be out there for quite some time. We're at the very start of this, but there's some dominoes or some things that we need to check off right on the front end. And I'll be happy to communicate back to Mr. Stokes. We'll establish a timeline for implementation, and I'll also provide our methods of outreach, how we go about doing that, to where it can be communicated back to you. We welcome your feedback on this as we move down this process.
We suggest this, Secretary Jacobson, to the rest of the board, and Mr. Kelly, I don't want to box you into anything unrealistic, but how along the lines of a the amendment being a good faith effort to have concluded the public outreach by 12/31/23.
I think that's appropriate.
Okay, so I still have a motion that I need a second to.
Second.
All right, now it's been moved in second.
Vote on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the main motion.
Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment first. That is to have the community outreach done before 12 what?
31.
12/31. All in favor?
I,
Oppose? All right, that motion carries. So now, the original motion
As amended.
as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Agenda item number 4, take it.
Agenda item number 4, to review, discuss, and possible action regarding entering into an agreement for professional services with Schaumburg and Polk, Inc. for the design and bid services for the improvement to the existing lift station servicing the Spur 93 Business Park. May I have a motion?
move.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 4. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, review, discussion, and possible action regarding CEO travel to the EDC annual conference. May I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 5. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On that.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask Mr. Stokes, in your contract, I recalled you have a cap of $7,500 for travel for the year, and I was just wondering if you reached that limit yet or not.
Have not. This will be the one and last for this fiscal year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
Go ahead and I'll ask for that vote again. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, review, discuss, and possible action regarding the board president travel request to IEDC annual conference. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve agenda item number 6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. Do
Other
we,
business.
we have no other business? Okay. Would there be, you come close your meeting.
Man, that was quick. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we'll entertain that motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, we adjourn. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone that came out. Have a great month.